and Grounds is now called to order. Good evening, everyone. First item, 2012 bond construction update, a report by Manager Clarence Pabineau, SGB.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know you have a very long, full agenda, so I've purposely made this report very short and concise. It's about, I think, 8 informational slides. Okay, there we go. First slide on the storm damage repair. Of course, 15 projects, all 15 have now been bid. 8 are either completed or substantially completed. 2 are under construction, which is TL Roads and Benton High. The materials are being delivered for Kingston, and there are 4 others, namely Airline Bick, Benton Intermediate, and the small miscellaneous projects that are ready to start upon material delivery. So everything's moving in the right direction. Your out-of-pocket costs to date are estimated, and to date, $787,728. Those are mostly for alternates that you approved along the way for better roofs or more roof work beyond what the storm damage caused. The dollars paid out to date, just shy of $4.75 million. The amount anticipated, the net claim to the insurer, that's what the insurance company is going to reimburse you for the claim, right now stands at $13,671,707, with a total estimated project cost of $14,458,935. Any questions on that slide? Next slide, please. This is the overall project schedule. Everything in blue is the construction time. Each of these little blocks is a 1-week period. I've condensed it starting with current month of May. As you can see, these up here are just about ready to finish. There's just some minor work left to be done on those. At the bottom, I'll call your attention really to Airline High and to Bick. Those are actually going to go into early next year. This is the end of the year. Material deliveries, in the case of Bick, it's probably going to be, they estimate now, about the end of December or sometime in December before the roof insulation arrives. Roof insulation, since the beginning of the roofing projects, have been in short supply and have been many months delayed, anywhere from 5 to 8 months in delay. So that's what's happening. Your insurance company, once we get the official schedule from the contractors, will be notified. They do know that Airline's going to go into next year. Airline, of course, is the largest by far. It's just under $3 million. There are 30 buildings that require some roof work. There are many different types of roofing, but for the same reasons, the complexity, the size, and material delivery delays, it will go into next year, at least through the first quarter. But we'll make an official notification when we get the actual schedules from the contractors. But with that, those are the only 2 I'll go over the end of the calendar year. Any questions? All right, next slide, please. One more, there we go. All right, bond program balances at Halton, you're sitting at $1,133,000. At Parkway, $5,381,000, and then for all the completed projects, you're at $1,950,000 for a total of $8,465,646. Any questions? Okay. All right, next slide, please. Okay, on Halton.
Go back for just a second, please.
Sure.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Those numbers mirror the monthly budget summary that you're provided every month. So that's just an active spreadsheet. It's easy for me to edit, but it's the same thing.
No. Could you be sure that the board gets that every month? I don't think we're
But they do.
that.
Yeah, I sent it to Mr. Cottom. He distributes it to the board every month.
Okay.
Yep.
I've never got
In fact,
it.
the new one was just issued this morning. It may not have gone out to the board yet. Okay. All right. But we did issue it this morning, so. All right. And if you'd like, I'll be happy to make that available, that actual slide to you if you wish. Be happy
If we're getting the package, if we're getting the package sent out, that's fine.
Okay, all right, very good. All right. Any other questions on that slide?
Yeah, can we kick him out?
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to do you a favor.
All right, next slide, please. Okay, on Halton High, just some updates. We do some improvement in communication from the new construction superintendent who took over a few months ago. Things are actually beginning to coalesce, if you will. There's been more effort to clean the site and to provide some temporary drainage. That's been an issue for a while, but they've particularly made a lot of improvements in the last week or two. The windows have now been installed. There are obviously some doors yet to go, but all the windows in classrooms have actually been installed, which is a big milestone. The interior gypsum board, which is another milestone, is beginning. That will get ramped up some once the permanent power is installed. SWEPCO's in charge of that, and it's now expected by tomorrow, fingers crossed. When that happens, the building is energized, the air conditioning can be turned on, the interior finish work can start. You can't really do interior finishes with an unconditioned space, so that's a big milestone right there. Also, Yates's senior quality control staff have visited the site recently, provide some recommendations, primarily on waterproofing, and those have been passed on to the contractor and to the architect. One of the, for instances, was doing some water testing of the windows. Before the brick goes on, water test the windows, make sure they're watertight. And so there are actually two different tests that are going to be done. One's a hose test, where they literally stand with a hose, start from the bottom, work their way up. And there'll be another official ASTM, which is the American Society of Testing Materials, official test of a window to make sure it actually does work. And that's coming up by a testing agency, hopefully next week or so. So those are coming up.
Question.
Thank you. Coach, Mr. Cottom has done a great job on getting this mess straightened out. My question is, how did it get this bad? And have we got something to where we can make sure this type of stuff doesn't happen again?
There are a lot of probably ways to answer your question. I think part of it had to do with some of the personnel involved. There's been some change. There's also been an improvement in some of the people we've got on site from the contractor. Maybe some lessons learned from the contractor. I'm hoping that's the case, where some of the mistakes they made, and keep in mind, what we can do is recommend. We don't have the authority to compel them to do something. We recommend multiple times. Sometimes they take the advice, sometimes they take it a little bit later. I hope they're learning those lessons, and that's one reason we have some improvements now. I think the communication's better, and they're simply maybe listening a little bit better than they did in the early stages. To the second part of your question, the state has changed the methodology for public bodies to build projects. Up until recently, it was always design, bid, build. Low bid, low bid, low bid. The state now has taken another path that all the surrounding states around us have been using for years. And that is, you may, under a certain procedure, pick a contractor before bidding, actually in the early design stage, based on their qualifications. You go through a whole selection process, much like we do for architects. And you can actually do that for projects of $5 million and higher. So that's been available to us for a little while now. And I would highly recommend that we seriously look at that method next time you have a project of that scope.
Thank you all so
Yes, sir.
much. I know every week you have to go out there.
It is what it is, and we
Y'all
just,
have earned your $1.25 an hour.
we appreciate the compliments. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Bullard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Am I hearing correctly that the ship has been righted and we are now proceeding more or less on course?
It's being righted. It's a process. I won't say everything is perfect yet. I've got another slide to show you. I'll give you a little bit more background on current events, but it is improving. And I think that's the big takeaway. Okay.
Where do we stand today insofar as completion date?
I've got that slide coming up.
I'm just getting ahead of you, aren't I?
Yes, you are. But I'm trying to be thorough, if not brief.
Always thorough. Always. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Brother.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're saying from now on, we do not have to accept the lowest bid from projects that are
There is a process on projects of $5 million and higher. If you don't have, you can choose low bid. You're not bound by
We
that.
don't have
You don't have to, but there is a process. But you have to start the process early in the design stage, really when the architect just really just getting started. So it's a parallel process with selecting an architect as well. But this whole, and it's very laid out in very great detail from the state, what you have to follow. The state's been using it experimentally right after Katrina because they had so many damaged buildings, they had to try something else. And it's worked well enough that they began offering it in areas, the rest of the state. It was just in the Orleans, St. Bernard Parish areas to begin with, and they've now extended it statewide. It was for large projects, and they've now been reduced to smaller projects. So public bodies can veil that process to their next project if they wish. So, and if you wish, we'll be happy to help you with that. So just letting you know that is available.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Other questions?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Next slide, please. Okay. To Mr. Bullock's question, the work is at 70% complete. About 92% of the time has been used. The current date of substantial completion is July 13th. They are not going to make that date. The construction, they are not, and I'm going to show you this next couple of lines down the page. Their official schedule shows completion, substantial completion, August 24th. I have some serious doubts they're going to make that, but that's the official schedule, okay? The construction superintendent and his assistant have put together their own unofficial spreadsheet of activities, and they show November 7th. It could be a little earlier than that, but that to me is much more realistic and achievable. I'm hoping they get better than that, but we have to look at when it's finished and then, you know, the complexities of moving in and the logistics of doing all that. But it tells me, you know, you'll move in if nothing else or get to use the building first semester next calendar year, so in January. But based on that. Now, to all that same question, the last week the GC asked for a time extension. He's got to provide documentation, the reasons why, and why it's justified. If and when he does that, it will be reviewed. There's a whole process laid out. This is all by the book. This is nothing unusual. GCs do that almost on a monthly basis, but they have to justify it. Sometimes they're awarded the date, sometimes they're not, sometimes it's a compromise based on what can be actually justified. So we don't have that information yet. I'm just letting you know it came up. It will be reviewed at the proper time when that information is made available to us. But I'm just giving you a little heads up on that. Okay? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Is that extension and justification to get around liquidated damages?
That's not what's been discussed. They just said they had need for a time extension. I said, okay, show us why it's necessary. Show us why it's deserved. And it has to meet certain criteria. It either is or it isn't. They can't just say, we want more time. That doesn't hold water. It has to be documented. For instance, materials ordered in a timely fashion were 3 months late being delivered. They're a crucial item. That would be a reasonable expectation. But you've got to provide documentation from a manufacturer. And I would want documentation that the material was ordered properly on time by the GC, the factory delayed, the factory had a fire, the factory had a storm, something that would justify. So those things do happen. It's happened on other projects. Every project has time extension requests for various reasons. It could be weather related, okay? But you have to justify it. So it's not an automatic thing. You've got to make your case, just like anything else. The burden is on the contractor to prove that the time is justified, and it's not awarded unless it is. So we would have to agree with the architect and Mr. Cottom. Everyone takes a look at that and has a say in that. So I'm just letting you know that there is a request for one. Okay.
Now, will that come back to the board for the final decision on the days? Because I know that there was already some discussion with the architect.
Typically
And-
not. My understanding is board authority is required for a change order, and a time extension is a change order, okay? Board action is required on a change order over $50,000. Beyond that, it's really more an administrative matter, okay? Now, you may wish to know about it, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm just letting you know that there's a request out there, which, again, is not that unusual. Almost any change order has a time extension request attached to it. It just has to be justified.
Depending on what allowances and adjustments are made, the board may want to be informed before a final decision is made.
That would be perfectly fine, sure.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, just a couple of shots. This is from Tuesday. We've got the brick. This is on the west side, the full brick all the way up. And then on the right side of the picture, that's actually what's fronting West McKinley. So they're actually working, you can see all the windows installed. So they're actually making some pretty good progress. You can also see the site's been cleaned up some as well. So improvements, which we like to see. Any questions? Okay, and this is the last slide. This is just the view of the admin wing facing west. You can also see the red brick being installed below the windows. So again, more progress. I like to see the exterior work. It's been certainly needed for a long, long time, but just want to give you a little bit of a heads up on that. All right, any other questions? Well, that concludes my report. I thank you very much.
You're also number 2, but you already gave your storm damage report, correct?
I did, yes.
Okay.
You would like to revisit something?
Mr. Bass?
I know I believe we were having someone associated with the architect to come and do basically an inspection of what had already been done, i.e. To make sure we caught all of the work that may have been done improperly before moving on. Has that been completed?
I think what you may be, well, to answer your question in a word, yes, people are there every day. And so any deficiency, we'll call them deficiencies, are documented. And that documentation is updated as required. So that is a constant process. And the biggest ones were, windows and blocking and site work. The brick ledge around the building, if you may recall, last month was an issue. That's pretty much been it's about 60% complete right now. Not everything is fixed yet. They are working on it. So, but it's a constant dialogue of us being out there, taking notes, filing reports, and making sure those matters are discussed in the weekly progress meetings, because they're meeting every Tuesday afternoon in the library, 12:50, and it has been since day one. So it's a constant to make sure that we stay on top of those things. So it's another thing, it's in progress. Okay, not to say everything is, they're being worked on. And that's why really the gist of the report.
Has the new construction superintendent addressed the concerns that have been expressed multiple times about a sidewalk and canopy issue? Has there been any corrective action, or has he at least acknowledged and agreed to address it at an appropriate time?
They are addressing it. They know they are required to address it. It is discussed every week. Every single meeting we discuss it. What's the progress? They've come up with a solution. We're waiting on them to get the materials here for a demonstration, if you will. It's a small section. The contractor has moved from doing the work themselves to having their concrete subcontractor do the work. And so it's a matter of simply getting them to do it. So that is something that should have been done months ago. It's in the grand scheme of things, we've been focusing on the building because that's the more major issue. The sidewalk is usable, if not completed, but usable. And so they have a solution that I think is going to work. We just asked for them to do a demonstration of about a 10-foot section and it has to do with the drain. There's a drain on the edge of that sidewalk that was not well done. And that work was rejected. And so they've come up with a solution to correct that. The drain functions, it's just aesthetically not the best workmanship. And so that was really the bigger issue for us. They have a solution. We're just waiting for them to do a demonstration section, about a 10-foot section. I think it's about 100 feet long, 120 feet long perhaps. And we want a small section done to make sure they can do it before they do the whole thing and then it gets rejected again. So I'm hoping that gets done quickly and certainly before school starts in the fall.
I believe that addressing and correcting that issue would go a long way toward appeasing a lot of people based on comments I'm hearing, and Ms. Brotherton and Mr. Bachhaus, they may want to correct me on this, but that's something that is so apparent and it impacts so many people. It's a minor thing, and I appreciate the
It's a
fact
major
you're
sidewalk to the
focused on the
campus.
big picture.
Yeah.
But that one little thing is like a little, it's like a gnat that just keeps picking at them.
Agreed.
And that might that would appease a lot of people and maybe turn their attention elsewhere.
Yeah, really, once they have the materials here, it shouldn't take them very long to make the repairs. I mean, a few days, a week perhaps, if they just do it. There's been some difficulty getting the
So
material.
we've all agreed. It's not
That's a
this
constant.
isn't a big deal, but they just
Right.
didn't seem to want to address it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Brotherton?
Okay, when you say they're gonna address, are you talking about the drainage, or are you talking about the canopy?
Well, the maintenance is taking care of the canopy. There's a gap in the canopy.
Right.
Maintenance is going to finish that part, and that should be done over the summer.
Our maintenance?
That's my understanding. Am I right, Stacy? Yeah. So it's being,
Wasn't that supposed to be done?
no, here's what happened. They had this much canopy removed from this point to this point. They removed it from this point to this point and left a gap. They removed too much on one end, didn't mark enough for the other end, and it took them so long, the decision was made, forget about it, we'll take care of it. And so that's the canopy. I'm talking, well, there's a drain cover, to be more specific. It's just, again, it functions, the drain functions. It's just, the workmanship is less than acceptable, okay? Yeah,
How much?
15.
yeah.
I took Mr. Bamber on a tour the other day, about 2 weeks ago, and he saw the drainage. So he can attest to the work.
Mr. Buckhouse?
I see Coach Haney, and Coach Haney's in the meetings every Tuesday that they have. Do you have anything that you'd like to add, Coach?
Any other questions?
Madam Chairman?
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babineau.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Number 3, declaration of surplus, resolution of CM for land. Mr. Cottom?
Good afternoon. Chairperson Smith, Superintendent Downing, committee members. Let me first circle back to the monthly surplus budget report. We do get those monthly from Clarence office. I do review. I send it to accounting for them to do a double check, and then it comes back, then I send it out. So hopefully next week we can have that to everybody. Okay, so item number 3, just a quick update on 3 properties that we declared surplus. The first one is the Red Land School Tract. That land appraised for $3,500. We've been in contact with the adjacent landowners, and they've had some health issues, so we're kind of behind the ball on that. We should be hearing back from them, I would think, next couple of weeks about a potential offer. The Hopewell School Tract, that's the section with the schoolhouse that's next to Hopewell Baptist Church. We've worked with them and received a call Monday that they have approved to purchase the property. So we should be getting an offer back with them through our real estate agent soon, so we can get that going too. The 2 sections next to Halton Middle School, both of those have been appraised. We do have buy-sell agreements that have been signed and executed by the owner and Mr. Downey on both of those. So the first one is the small tract, which is appraised for $4,500. We do have an offer for $4,500 on that property. The second one, we have an offer for $80,000 for the 1 acre land that's going to, Southern Home Builders is potentially going to build 3 or 4 houses on that. I'm waiting, the next phase really is waiting to hear from a closing date, which I'll notify Mr. Bass upon that. Both of those offers do meet our Louisiana revised statutes. that the first offer shall be a minimum 85% of appraised value. So we've met all of our requirements. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Is that first offer, 4,500, is that from the gentleman that lives next to that lot?
Yes, sir. Mr. Wagner, he is the adjacent landowner, and this is a little section of land right next to his house, right by the road.
Could benefit from
Yes, sir. It's unusable and unbuildable from our
Thank you.
standpoint.
Any other questions? Mr. Bamberg?
Madam Chairperson, I make a motion to list these 4 properties as declaration of surplus.
I think we've already done
Yeah,
that,
we have,
haven't we?
yes.
We don't need any action on that one. We've
Yeah,
already,
That's just a report.
Oh, we don't, okay.
we've already
I
taken
just saw
care
it.
of that, and those
It's
are
just a
already under
report.
contract.
Yes.
I guess, yeah, I guess I would have asked why weren't we selling this already if we didn't declare it surplus, so forgive me.
Any other questions? So there's no motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Number paving and drainage improvements, Phase 2, land acquisition, Stinson track.
Yes, ma'am. So this is just a report, an update. Stuart, can you go to this? This is just sort of aerial, just a view. This is what we consider the extension track here in blue. This is the 31.6 acre lot. So we have had a meeting with Dana Stinson and Mr. Ford Stinson about their interest in selling us the property and our interest in wanting to purchase the property. This was, I think this started in December as far as getting the stuff going. We've got appraisal done. The title work, air search has been ongoing. There's about 18 heirs. The previous landowner passed away, and it's complicated. The Stinson family, local, according to them, they own about, or their immediate family, so to speak, has about 65% of the land. The other 35% is they're not real familiar with. So once the title work gets completed, we'll meet back with them. We'll work out an offer. We'll notify all the heirs and of our offer, and we'll proceed that way, which will update the board when that happens. Any questions?
I would just say to proceed. After going to the graduation the other night, it was apparent that even a parking lot would be of great use with the way that people were walking from the public park and library area down there, and dangerous on that road with people driving, so.
Right.
Any other questions?
I just a comment, if I could, please. I think we need to, we owe a debt of gratitude to our representatives from the Halton district for all the work that they, Mr. Bachhaus and Mr. Brotherton, they put a lot of effort into this, particularly Mr. Bachhaus, and they are to be commended for making this thing, well, we're approaching a reality at this point. And I don't know, but we've discussed it, and Mr. Bachhaus and I discussed it today, and this track would solve a multitude of issues if we can successfully make it a reality.
Yes, sir.
So thank you to everybody that, because y'all have, people won't appreciate it till years down the road, and they should look back and thank y'all for all that you've done to try to make this come about.
There's no action needed on this item at this moment, except to continue what you've got planned. Number 5, Halton High Paving and Drainage Improvements, Phase 2, land acquisition on Gillette Track.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so this is north of Halton High School. This is Mr. Jap Gillette's property. He currently is still living at the property, him and his wife. So we've got information that they were interested in having the school board, that they wanted us to have the property. So we have, myself, Mr. Bachhaus, we've had some meetings with Mr. Gillette's children this week on their wishes, and to how they would like to sell the property, possibly as an entirety or in sections. Their plans are to possibly still live there for the next 5 to 7 years. Currently, in the section B, just below where the letter B is, that's where his current residence is. One of our options that we're possibly suggesting is to look at section A as far as immediate area that we could purchase and use for parking. This is about 5.5 acres. We think 3 to 4 acres of this could be turned into parking lot and access the football stadium from the north side and consider kind of overflow parking. So our thought is we will have further review and discussion and determine if we need the entire property, sections of it, if maybe the 5.5 acres is too much. That's just some kind of ongoing items we're going to look at and review.
I personally, from being out there the other night, I could see where that 5.5 acres would be usable. So to me, if we could look at possibly going ahead and making an offer to purchase that if they're ready to sell that, and then maybe a first right of refusal for B or whatever is there when they so choose that they're not going to use it anymore.
Right. So that's kind of what, here tonight, we're sort of just asking just kind of to move forward, similar to what we've done with the extension track. If we need to get appraisals, if we need to get some, spend some money on some studies, stuff like that for parking, and then we could meet back with them and kind of work out something. They're really open to whatever we can come up with. And we appreciate their gratitude.
What you put there encompass, I mean, if y'all are in agreement with looking at to pursue that 5.5 acres more now than later?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we authorize administration to pursue acquisition of the 5.5 acres designated as Track A on the map that we're looking at, along with a right of first refusal on Track B. And of course, we do not have a value or a proposal. So you will be coming back to us.
Yes, sir.
Once this is to the point of some hard dollars.
Right. We'll have to get appraisal to figure out how much, and then we'll figure out this. If this 5.5 works, if it's a little more, a little less, we'll definitely come back for approval.
So we have a motion on the table by Mr. Bullard and a second by Ms. Brotherton. Those in favor on the committee, please vote. Passes unanimously. 6, South Bossier Improvement Plan awning discussions. Thank you, Mr. Cottom. South Bossier Improvement Plan awning additions, discussion or action by Mr. Bamberg.
All right, so we've broken this up. I know, board members, you've seen some documents that Mr. Newman has shared via email, and we had some conversation about it in the past in this committee setting. So item number 6 is the awning additions. We broke them down to awnings, and they're at Parkway, Bel Air, Sun City, and Elm Grove. Some of these are sped areas, drop-off. Some of them are just covered areas, a cafeteria that gives our students additional places to go sit, which became an issue during COVID for sure. And they like to be outside, and if we can cover that, I think it gives them some ability to do that. And then just some wing awnings as well. So we're just asking for an approval of that.
These cost estimates were performed by Mr. Roger. Okay. Have any question? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend staff to proceed. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Darby. Please show your hands to vote. It was a majority. I mean, it was everybody, went out unanimous. Number 7, South Bossier Improvement Plan, driveway and drainage improvements, discussion action item by Mr. Bamberg.
Okay, and I meant to mention that myself and Mr. Newman had a lot to do with this, and Mr. Bertrand as well. We're working with these principals and areas. So this one is driveway and drainage improvements. One of them is at Parkway High School from some additional needed parking at the school. And then at Elm Grove Elementary, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you cross a railroad track right before you take a right. And so this is a possibility of looking to move that entrance into the school further to the back of the property, furthest away from the railroad tracks. So I'd ask for, go ahead, questions?
Make the motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Bullard, second by Ms. Brotherton. Please vote. Unanimous. Number 8. Number 7.
Ms. Brotherton.
Huh?
Second on that motion.
Ms. Brotherton.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my throat's cutting out. Number 8, South Bossier Improvement Plan, Parkway High School Facility Addition, and Preston Crownover Stadium Field Improvements. Mr. Bamberg.
All right, the field house, as we had some discussion in this committee, we've had some problems trying to just find where to put girls, so we've kind of moved turnover and moved them into one area and out of another, and so this will just ease that situation where the boys have their space and the girls have their space as far as the field house goes. And then, and the other thing, item that we spoke about, what we were waiting to come back to the board with is, do we have to have the, tornado category 5 or stage 5 or whatever it is, terrible tornado that's never ever happened in North Louisiana, but just in case, we did get a deal that shows that we do not have to build to those specifications for this building, which was going to about double the cost, so. And then the other item on this is at Preston Crownover Stadium to add artificial turf and repair or replace the scoreboard.
Okay. Ms. Brotherton.
Okay, the field house, it's an addition, so is this going to connect to the field house that's there now?
They'll share the breezeway on the south side. So where the
Where that concession stand thing is?
and outdoor bathrooms are, that will turn into a breezeway, and it'll sit in that grass area between the driveway and the sidewalk.
Oh, okay, I was just trying to get it in my head.
Yeah, I think there might have been a picture of that in the email that was sent out as well, but I'm not sure.
Do you have that, Mr. Thompson? Okay.
And send it to you.
I've got it in my head, I know
Okay.
where you're talking now.
Mr. Bullard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's no secret, my stand on artificial turf and financing of artificial turf from our bond funds. And, but at the same time, these are dollars, we're approaching the end of our bond program. And these are funds that were dedicated to the improvement of Parkway attendance zone, not Parkway High School, but that entire area. And if it's your opinion that these funds, and we're talking quite a bit of money here for all of these projects, all of which are worthwhile and certainly needed, question the turf, but we'll argue that for many years into the future. But seriously, you're comfortable that there's not going to be a need for additional academic classroom facilities in the foreseeable future, that being 5 to 10 years out?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but
No,
this money would not even touch the cost of having a high school wing added in either. So with both of those, either we'll have to go to another bond to provide space for educational space, or this money become well short of trying to add anything to a high school. And I think that would be our only problem area, would be at the high school, if we have one in the next 5 or 10 years, which I don't think that we're showing one.
Look at Mr.
Thank you.
Hefner's projections, I think we're pretty stable right now.
Yeah,
We can flex enough to absorb a plus or minus of a certain percentage, but obviously, anybody that's going to get a 10 or 15% increase, you're going to, that would be an issue down the road.
Well, as I say, we're at the end of this program, and if your constituents and yourselves believe this is a valid utilization of the funds at this point in time, so be it. Just remember, we'll ask you about it. If you come back in 2 years and say, we need a wing, we'll remind you.
So,
Fair enough?
Mr. Bullard, is that a motion?
Right.
Mr. Dane?
Thank you. I have the same concern as Mr. Bullard. I'm not an artificial turf fan. I think, the money should be used for buildings, but the same, if y'all from South Bossier, and we have a South Bossier man back here in the back, I know is probably farthest. As much as I dislike it, I could vote for it if, same as he was saying, we don't have needs for it in our facilities in other schools. I just want to be on the record as for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I will third that, which has not been a surprise. But I know y'all have almost 5.4 million in the projects. If the estimated cost estimates are in line, that they would be covered with that. I have two concerns. One is the maintenance of the turf field and the cost of doing that. And I know there is some cost utilized now to maintaining the grass fields. I would like for each of our schools that have turf fields to not just think that that's free money to go out and do now that they're not having to maintain that, and that that would be stored in an account to be used for replacement and maintenance of those over the 7 to 10 year period of when they have to be replaced. I don't want to put that burden on the school district solely to have to replace these fields at a cost of $1 million and no telling what it'll be in 10 years from now. And so I don't know what we would need to do to make that occur from the district.
Yeah, so we are looking at what other districts do for on a 10 to 15 year plan for that and how that they allocate funds or resources. So obviously there won't be money going out for fertilizer, paint,
Right.
et cetera, equipment and things like that. So reverting those funds to I don't want to say slush fund, but maybe an escrow type account where it just builds over time. And then when it becomes the need for it, that money's there. And then obviously you have gate money and things like that that you can allocate certain percentages to. And then in 10 to 15 years, the replacement cost for the topping is not near the cost of the initial construction and installation. So we're looking at Ouachita Parish, Monroe Area District, some out of South Louisiana and DeSoto, how they've structured their revenue plans to help facilitate that replacement in the 10 to 15 year time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know there's some other projects coming up where, the visual boards and all that stuff are getting really expensive, the turf fields. I just don't want to put the burden on the school district to continue to try to maintain that. I mean, I don't know if we're at a point to where there's just an athletic bond passed or if there's a sales tax dedication somewhere down the road. But I know that the money sits in an account that's at the school level. And Brenda, you're here, so maybe you can help a little bit with this on how that would need to be structured. But I don't know if it sits there. I know that it'll be utilized if it's there. So I want us to be able to figure out some type of dedication where that's there for not just Parkway, but for all schools to
That is
utilize
in
that.
process. That is not finalized, but that is the number one topic as far as discussion goes.
And then, just a second, Mr. Buckhouse. And then secondly, I know that we're over here at Halton, and we're talking about land, and they're not making land, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about land, but I want to be sure that y'all still have bond fund money set aside to purchase land. And $1 million doesn't build what it used to buy, to do that. I mean, we're sitting here looking at these 3 tracts of land that could well be over that for Halton. But being able to do that, so that's a concern about utilizing all of the bond money. If the bids go over, that you're not going to have that. So I don't know what the plan is there, what all the final discussions were, but that's just some concerns that I have. So, but with that being, Mr. Buckhouse.
This is a big deal. Is there anybody from the schools here that would like to speak on these items from Parkway or wherever else this is going?
I think they had some afternoon.
Bel Air
Do you have any comments on any of this, the representatives from the schools?
Ms. Mater, I think they're asking you.
The driveway improvement is greatly needed, so I appreciate that, our buses, they come and they have to turn right away, and it's one way in and one way out. So the improvement we're talking about will provide a second entrance exit. That's with our traffic. So far from the afternoon, when I can bring
Yes, certainly. I just wanted to see what they said. We don't have a high school representative here.
No, sir. Mr. Cheatham, you have a comment you want to make? No, you're good? Okay. All right, any other questions or discussion? Ms. Featherston?
I am a turf girl, so I know some people do not like turf, but I just feel like Bossier Parish is getting so far behind. You can say what you want. These turf fields are not just for football. The whole school can use these turf fields, and they don't cost any more than a track, but I've said that before. What I would like to go on record as saying that I think the parish needs to really look hard at getting our other 3 high schools turf fields. We're going to sit here now with 6 high schools in Bossier Parish. 3 are going to have these nice, beautiful turf fields, and 3 of us are still on grass, and I get it. I mean, I'm voting for it. I just think that we need to look hard at bringing these other 3 fields up some way. I don't know how, and where the money would come from, but I think that's something that we need to have a discussion about and try to go forward, because we're getting left behind in Bossier. And when people move in here, they're going to look around at our schools, and they're going to say, I want my kid to play on this turf field at this school, and the rest of us don't have that. So, I just think we need to look at it in the future, trying to get turf for the other schools too. That's all I wanted to say.
Brenda, do you have any comment about with the funds and how we could set that up, or?
We can set aside restricted funds in the set aside and restrict.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What would that accumulate to in terms of an amount over a 10-year period of time?
35,000.
We have to use that for baseball, softball, soccer, football, and everything, so if
So 50 grand in 10 years?
But that has to be used for baseball, so football doesn't use all of that.
So 10 grand in 10 years,
Yeah, so
or 12.
A lot more to it.
That ain't be enough.
Some maintenance stuff that's not full replacement. I mean, and it may be more than that's not there. I would just rather it be in some type of restrictive fund instead of just being access that it's there and something come up to spend it on, which it will.
And I believe it's a great idea, but my question is for you, Coach. Do you just spend $2,000 on your field a year? Okay. Well, and I would surely like to sit down with the coaching staff over there and the principal and say, I mean, the one benefit we have in this district, football district, is we have a well-attended football games, good gates, and can we take portions of those gates and pull them back for the replacement of the field? Now, do I think that we're going to be able to fully replace the field with gates and with the money that we spend there? Like you said, maybe in 15 years, but surely put a big chunk of that forward so it's not a burden on the school board to pass something that gives us heartburn every 10 years.
We need to start that discussion now so that we have maximum
Sure.
benefit of it before it gets to that point. Because I know Bozier's was a different situation. Somebody else paid for Bozier's to be put in, but it's still going to have to be replaced, and it's probably going to be on us.
I've already
you know,
started working on that
and,
structure.
Yeah, but with airline going in this year and the same thing with y'all going in, if we just can have a plan in place, whether
Agreed.
it's, I think we need to start talking about that.
Yeah. And I've already started working on that structure because we do have Bossier and airline as well. So we, you throw another one in there, well, you need to start outlining certain parameters on what 10 and 15 years down the road is going to look like. So we've already started working on that structure.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve item 8, Parkway High School Facility Addition and Preston Crownover Stadium Field Improvements.
Have a second? Second by Ms. Darby, motion by Mr. Bamberg. Please vote. Passes unanimously. Number 9, South Bossier Improvement Plan, signage and lighting improvements and playground improvements. Discussion action item, Mr. Bamberg.
Okay, just the last, there's just a couple things on this list at Parkway High School. We sit kind of far off the Colleen there, so marquee sign and entrance, and softball, baseball LED field lighting, and then Bel Air, which is a school that I had actually attended and played on some of this playground equipment as a child with Dr. Nicole Bourgeois. I think I probably got some pictures of us sitting on some of this. I didn't decide to bring them as a addition to this deal, but they've raised some money, and all we would be doing here is cost matching with their money so they can get some new playground equipment in.
Any discussion or questions?
May
Yes, Mr. Dean?
And the principal is here too, so.
On the lighting, this is football field lighting.
No, softball and
Softball
baseball.
and baseball.
Didn't we have a program back earlier where Campbell was going to help us with?
I believe that fell
was,
through, didn't it?
like Bossier and Plain Dealing were going to be the ones to benefit from that. This is similar to the program that was done at Halton and will be done at Airline down the road as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, Public Service Commission, there is something in the works there that was particular to Plain Dealing and Bossier because of the way they are.
Mr. Roget, will these be worked into any type of the grant offering or anything for this?
I have heard from the state on the ball field that the board initiated us perform ball field lighting. They denied that project as of April, so we have scampered to redo what they're asking us to do. And we have not heard an approval on the 6 schools that we had to put together like within 2 weeks. It was tight.
So that included that included Parkway's football, didn't it?
All ball fields.
All ball fields
They called
except
me,
for
told
Benton?
me no, we
Well,
will not
no,
do
Benton was
that.
included in that too. It was like we were talking about not doing it at the new school, right?
I had my concerns that was not what that program was built on, but the board voted, so I put it in, and they told me like end of April, it's out.
So have those projects already been completed?
No,
For the
we have
lighting?
not even been approved or started on the other
Okay.
projects.
So my question is the lighting at the football field?
That one was not part of
No.
that.
Okay,
The Public Service Commission grant was for anything moving forward.
right, but it was
What that was.
denied. So I'm asking y'all, is that going to be a priority over this if it has to come from funds? If-
No, that's what
Football's
that's
already
been
been done.
2000.
Yeah,
It's already
football-
done?
Yeah, football had been done.
That's what I just asked you. I thought he said it hadn't. I'm sorry.
We just couldn't use those funds.
I
from
didn't
the-
hear you about football. The
Okay.
Parkway football was not in that package. It was done
Okay,
prior to.
okay, that's what I was
I'm
asking.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. Any other questions before I confuse everyone?
So, do we have a total, is it on here, the total price of everything?
Did you get that?
Where is that, Eric? Is it in here? Or you just
No,
gonna
he
give me that?
emailed it.
Okay, so here's our,
So this is
actual. This is what money you had, correct?
And then this is all the project.
And this is the total.
Including a million. And that's
Again, and there's about 5.4 left in their bond fund, so
About 400,000
Yeah.
left.
of anticipated quote, cost estimate. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve number 9, South Bossier Improvement Plan, signage and lighting improvements and playground improvements.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Bamberg, a second by Mr. Bullard. Please vote. Says unanimously.
We didn't do 10, did we?
South Bossier Improvement Plan, land acquisition discussion, action item, Mr. Bamberg.
Item 10 is about some land acquisition. As you all know, Parkway sits on 39 acres, so we could obviously use some additional property beside the school. So I guess as of right now, we do not have a piece of property that we're negotiating on or can negotiate on, but this would give I guess this would be a placeholder for that money. They're doing a lot of construction down there, and they're waiting on the final for these bridges pass over and all that kind of stuff to find out maybe some of this land is unusable to the landowner, and it would give us an opportunity to purchase some more property. Right now, they're not ready for that discussion as far as we know, but this would be a good space holder for that money.
So do you need a motion on this, or we're just,
Hold on.
It's kind of in,
Do we, since we're not, and,
Will?
well, Mr. Collins here, I would say it was Will here, but, oh, there's Will. It's not, like Dennis said, Mr. Bamberg said, it's not a specific piece of property because there's some stuff on hold, but it is, we want to, like I said, placeholder, allocate it towards that. So is there action needed on that, or it just kind of sits there? Like, how do we?
So, for the land acquisition, we're not,
There's not a
acting on it.
defined parcel of land that this money will go to. It is for set aside. It's going to be set aside for
right,
that
if we're
when
going
it's
to set,
available.
but I think we can just kind of work that through with,
Yeah, we want it earmarked for land.
okay. I mean, you could make the official designation, but I also think if we talk with Nisha, we could, work on just setting it aside.
Yeah, I have, my concern is if we allocate it towards land, then you have to open that back up to reallocate it somewhere else if it's needed somewhere else. If it stays in the bond, then it just stays. We don't necessarily have to have action, do we?
Right, exactly. I think the best part would just be kind of put it in a spreadsheet.
I think you just earmark it. Yeah.
yes. Mr. Bullard?
Your interest is a contiguous track,
sure.
a common
Yes.
adjacent. Would it be any problem with making a motion that we authorize the superintendent and staff to, upon notification or learning that a contiguous parcel may be available, they're authorized to immediately take steps to pursue possible acquisition?
I do believe
It's squirrely, pardon me for interrupting, but as squirrely as this thing has been, and how many discussions have we had? Multiple.
When the toll
over
bridge
the-
is what's throwing it all in the air. The toll bridge is
Oh,
what's
yeah.
throwing it
Oh,
all
I'm
in the air
sure.
right now. That's why it's a earmark versus a.
And I just am a little concerned. It goes without saying, you desperately need some ground. Even with your current student and staff population. You need some room. Do we need to, what I'm thinking is, do we prepare it so if you learn of a potential track, you can move immediately. Not go in and buy it, but at least you can begin the process, because we're going to have it appraised. We're going to have to ensure that it meets our needs. And rather than waiting for,
Can you give Mr. Cottom the authority to actively pursue additional property?
that's fine with me. I'm just looking for a means whereby you don't have to wait 3 weeks to come to a board meeting, or whatever. They can go ahead and immediately go after it.
Suggested would do that. It says the committee recommends the Bossier Parish School Board authorize staff to pursue purchase of land as required for use and determine fair market value as determined by appraisal, to authorize the superintendent to procure title appraisal and real estate services funded by the 2012 bond construction. So that would work.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Mr. Buller made the motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Bamberg. Please vote. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Is that it? Anything else you want? 400,000 more out there.
Well, I'm here.
11, Newman Mason Field at Tiger Stadium, scoreboard replacement, discussion action item. I was contacted by the principal and head coach at Benton about the scoreboard. We've had several problems with it and the PA system, as far as somebody having to stand out there and constantly reset it, and the PA system is poor. I know just for graduation, the PA system was several $1,000s to rent for that night, but they have gotten some quotes on kind of what they would want because of the time constraints of having that done. I'm going to let Ms. Howe and Coach Moore, if y'all kind of just tell a little bit about that, please.
Good afternoon. We just would like to use our current infrastructure to add a new video board, scoreboard, and some, help me, clocks? Play clocks. I can't ever remember that. Our current ones work good on a bad day, bad on a good day. They go out in the middle of games. You know, the play clocks work at 6:15. By the time we kick off, they're no longer working, and I'm standing down there with the remote, putting batteries in, trying to get it to work, hold my mouth a certain way, or go flip things in the fuse box, and it's not conducive to a continuous game. And so the PA is kind of the same. I know Ms. Smith comes to a lot of our events, and you can't hear when you're on the field. When you're across the field, you know, our visitors can't hear what's going on from the press box. So that's one thing that, you know, we're requesting. We met with Ms. Bamberg about both of these items, and our Booster Club president met with them, and it was her thought that we should partner with the Booster Club to do one and then ask for school funds or board funds to do the other. And when we met with her at that time, she said we need to get on that press box quicker because the turnaround on that's longer with all the construction costs and
So when
items.
they approached me about these, most of them were going to cost about
Right.
the same if we went through getting it bid through the school system. Press box was going to be about 300, and the video board is going to be about 300. And so Ms. Bamberg thought that the press box could be built and done by the Booster Club under a cooperative endeavor. Of course, they can do that quite considerably less than what we could do. And they've agreed to do that. And so they're wanting to kind of do matching funds for these two projects where the Booster Club's going to take care of that one, and then we would use our remaining bond funds, part of it, to, for the video board.
Right.
It came in at a estimated quote of $166,751. And then to have the cabinets and the professional cameras and all that and done, and the electric and fiber installed that comes with the computer that it runs on and all of that, it came to a cost of about $282,767,000.
And that was without the play clocks. When I messaged, that was before we
Okay.
So when we talked to him about that, he said it would be another 5 to 10 probably
Okay,
for the
so
play clock.
right at that $300,000 mark. And again, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked them. How are you going to maintain this? What's the warranty on it? What's going to happen if this goes out?
Well, it will be in the same shape we are right now, I guess. We just spent more money on it. What I would like to do is, as we bid it out, is, and I have talked to Stacy about this, I don't want to do anything without our maintenance department knowing that they can work on it, or that they are good with the warranty and the maintenance plan on it, because that's where we've had to call. I've called Stacy on a Thursday or Friday and said, hey, our play clocks aren't working, the scoreboard's not working. He gets out there and they said, Coach, it's working. I go out there on Friday afternoon at noon and it's working, and then we get out there that night and we're playing a 5A football game and the scoreboard's off when they get there, or the play clock stops in the middle of the game, and it's happened multiple times. Play clock went off in the middle of a first-round playoff game this year and just stops. And so that would be something, as we bid it out, that we would ask about that and make sure, I would want to make sure that our maintenance department could operate with that, whether they could get the parts for it as they do now, or whether it would be something that we have because the guy's local who sent us that quote. And so
I would think that it's almost going to involve more of Stewart's department with how all of those things run than necessarily maintenance with the computerized and electronic and everything else. And
certainly parts of it, yes.
Mr. Rowland, for y'all's at Airline, where you started all this, I'm going to remind you, do you have contracts for maintenance on y'all's? With the price of the board? And what about an extended contract?
You could buy up to 7 years.
Okay. I assume you can do ads and advertising and stuff on this. So
Yes,
what
ma'am.
do you plan to do that, and what do you plan
Yes, ma'am.
to set aside something to do the maintenance of it?
Well, currently with just our quarter sponsors and touchdown drive sponsors, extra point sponsors, we generate about $12,000 a year just off that. We think that we can, with being able to put that on a 30-foot by 10-foot video board for people to be able to see and not just hear, we think we can increase that enough to almost double or more than double what we make off that, and to have that to be able to set aside to maintain it should we need that. That's not to mention being able to sell the actual, signs that would permanently be affixed there. And so we think that our ability to generate revenue from year to year would be greatly enhanced by this, but because it would be more valuable than just your name being called 2 or 3 times in the middle of a quarter, or when someone had got a first down. Now the logo would be up there. It would be the focal point. And as well, we play a lot of our district games are against local teams. And so our people who advertise, it would be worth more to them if we can guarantee that both sides of the field will be able to hear it. And that's a huge part of what we do, because for our visitor side to be able to hear it, we really have to turn it up so loud that the home side is blown out. And then even when you lower that, you can't really hear it. We bought new speakers. We've had them come out and rearrange the way they're directed. We've changed the volume settings. We've had experts come out and check that. We just hadn't been able to find something there because of the way it's set up apparently. But this would be similar to what other schools have: West Ouachita, Ruston, Neville, West Monroe. Games we played there where that sound system is run through the end of it, from the end zone where the video board would be, and would allow us to be able to actually have to enhance our stadium atmosphere and our game atmosphere for sure.
And that you have the middle school and the intermediate school there, and middle school games and stuff. I know it's very technical. I know it runs on an Apple system, and that would need to be talked with Stewart too, if that's going to be compatible with what we have in place. What is going to be the cooperation between all of those to use that?
Certainly our plan would be to have an adult who's trained to run that for our home games, and then to be able to use that for middle school games, to be able to have them there as well for that. Multiple people obviously would need to be trained, and using not just the computer setup, but also as we advance that, being able to have the multiple camera angles and things like that as we learned it, obviously, and got trained on that, but to have multiple people trained so that someone from the middle school could be trained so that when they had their games there, they could use it, or we would we would have someone available from our high school who knew how to do it. Same as we kind of do with the video board we have in the gym right now.
Any board member questions? Mr. Newman?
Will it say Newman Field on the scoreboard?
Newman Mason Field, yeah.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, that's
I had to ask that one. I couldn't help myself.
It can be arranged for several thousand.
Yeah, I think you have enough bond money left. We might be able to put some turf at Benton High if you want to do that. We'd be open to that.
Hey, we find it, we'll throw it over there for sure.
Okay, none of that. Superintendent Downey?
Well, I don't want to volunteer Mr. Thompson's time, but I think Mr. Thompson is a tremendous resource, and he would be glad to be involved in consulting on a warranty or extended warranty, or he has expertise in that area that is very valuable.
Yeah, so certainly we've worked with Benton on their board in the gym, so we'll certainly partner with them to make sure this is successful.
Okay. Any other board member questions? Okay, Mr. Buckhouse?
Well, I mean, I get asked that probably more than anything else, and I know that when Coach Downey was at the school as principal, we tried to rearrange the field as it is now to where if it ever needed to be done, we were thinking long-term beyond, just initially, but I really think that every time we kind of brought that up, whether it be for Parkway or for Benton, it's kind of been a cost issue there. I think we have enough room there to do it eventually, but I don't think that's in the foreseeable future. I mean, it's not even a competition field, as far as how it was graded and things like that. So as a baseball and softball field, we're there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? We may entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Number 11. Have a motion by Mr. Bullard. Second by Mr. Bamberg. Please vote. Unanimous. Thank y'all. Number 12, Newman Mason Field at Tiger Stadium press box replacement. Again, we kind of discussed this. This will be for the Bossier Parish School Board to authorize the superintendent to act on its behalf to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Benton High School Booster Club for the project, for the press board replacement and the sign related documents. Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the cooperative agreement.
Motion by Mr. Bullard. Second by Ms. Darby. Please vote. Motion passes. Number 13, Benton Middle School and Intermediate School traffic and overflow parking improvements. Again, I guess a lot of things were brought to light during the graduations and everything returning back to the schools. There's been a lot of discussion already about just the morning flow of traffic on Highway 3 and how the two SROs, having two schools real close together, and how the SROs direct the traffic. There's been some concerns. So I know there's been some meetings, I believe, with Mr. Johnson and Superintendent Downey and the parish administrators and Dr. Shelley Barrett and DOTD, and looking at all of that. And I know they've maybe offered to do a traffic study of that area, but we were also looking at where the baseball field was torn down in the back, of possibly doing SB2 or gravel. And I think Mr. Roche has gotten kind of quotes for across the parish. There should be a slide. Oh, is there a slide for that, Stuart? You can see in the back where the baseball field was, and kind of coming up north around, maybe doing a connective drive to the north side of Benton Intermediate School with like SB2. And Mr. Roger, is he here? Didn't you say that you got a quote for the parish and looking at projects, and there's kind of an estimation of what it would be per acre?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking at about $50,000 to $54,000 an acre. At this time, we're just preliminary drawings, looking to start at Area 1 and work our way around, and then address as we go to make that project move forward.
And I know at one time we had talked about using bond funds to do the ring road, and I know when we initially started talking about it, it was between 800 and $1 million, and then last time we projected it was over 3. And so we would like to see what this would temporarily resolve in there to add. I don't know how much parking you think that would add. That I know it's right now, they're just parking on the grass and it's weather permitted and it's not really graded or anything for parking. And that'll take place with that.
We would work, right now we're in preliminary stages, so if you want to allocate some funding toward us start moving forward, we're preliminary right now laying it out. We're going to lay out some parking, and we're getting surveys to see where drainage needs to go in that project. But you're looking at about 100, with gravel, under 200 an acre parking. Usually on concrete, you're looking at about a little over 2 per acre, but with gravel, it's going to be a little different because it's not so precise. So that's what we would need to move forward is funding to start moving through Area 1 up and see how far we progress.
So again, we would need a motion to recommend the Bossier Parish School Board to proceed with the project of Benton Middle School and Intermediate School and traffic and overflow parking improvements. And as I say, DOTD and Dr. Shelley Barrett, and they're all looking at what we could do to improve all of that. It's quite interesting in the mornings with the 2 schools dumping in there. I drive it every morning. And at graduation, for those of y'all who weren't there, people parked at Brookshire's and walked, and it was on both sides of Highway 3, and people were parking in the northbound lane of traffic, stopping and letting people out of their car. And it was backed up south of Tubbs. I mean, it was, and I know that's just for an event, but it's like that for football. It's like that if you have field day. I mean, for any events that are held there, it's really become a safety issue. Mr. Dean?
Is this no parking or weather permitted parking? When the graduation, were cars parked in this 8 acres?
They were parked in the part that they could, that was graded enough to do that. I mean, there were some, they parked the 300 graduate cars or whatever back there.
At this time, the only thing that is rocked is in the red hash marks. Everything else is pretty much fair. Well, in Area 1 has a little bit of gravel in it, but the rest of it is fair weather parking from the Area 2 to the 1.4 acres at the top all the way around. It's all grass.
My question though, like graduation, we were way too many cars for the parking we had. Were cars parked in this area at that time?
I believe cars were parked, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
They parked on the old baseball field, which would be Area 2.
They parked in here.
Yeah.
They parked on that current area that's gravel. We started moving them around to the back of the intermediate school and parking them in, I think it's Area 4, closer to, even after
So
the.
what I'm getting at, even with if this is gravel, we're still gonna be overcrowded, correct?
No, I think it'll help relieve a lot of the flow and how it is, because there was fences in the way, and we're adding some more areas, going to straighten out some ditches, so it'll add to some parking. And when we witnessed the other day, we were standing out there yesterday, and the intermediate and the middle school were having programs. They were parked all on the highway out front.
Right.
They don't know they had that access.
Okay.
So if we can create that access, even the middle and the intermediate can use it for their different event parking in the back. We can start moving them into that direction. Right now, they have no direction to go back there.
I mean, because someone could have blocked the entrance into the stadium and directed traffic back there in those high-flow events like that.
They were parked down Highway 3 to Brookshire's yesterday during an
Yeah.
event for the
Yeah,
school.
I know.
Not a graduation, just a...
Superintendent Downey?
Mr. Rowland, myself, Mr. Roget, Mr. Cottom were out there, I believe it was Tuesday. And when you put eyes on it, if what they're asking can be done, you're going to triple the capacity and hopefully get all those cars off of Highway 3, because it's not being efficiently used now because it's not rock completely, and there's really a lack of knowledge about it even being back there. So to answer the question, would it solve the problem? If you triple the capacity of parking back there and it's more well-known, it's going to get the cars off of Highway 3.
Mr. Bullard?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're talking parking, but as I understand and appreciate this current situation, we had a one-time, very serious set of circumstances at graduation, the potential for a catastrophic accident. Everything was there. Thank the Lord we made it without any problem. But we have, to certainly a lesser degree, a potentially dangerous situation every morning and every afternoon with our pickup. Now, our ring road was going to absorb and correct a lot of that. That was never carried forward. In looking at this graphic that's been provided to us, am I to understand that the connector drive, that will be gravel? It will come through then 4, 3, 2, and, 1 or 2, whatever the case, and connect to Rubicon Drive. Now, am I reading that correctly?
That is correct. This is a rock road, rock drive.
I understand.
Just like we did Apollo years ago. I think it's kind of a solution as far as using ring road. I want to be clear, professionally, ring road usage. We're in a study stage to help fix that, so I don't want to say that's a permanent solution for that.
I understand, but it would be a temporary solution to this very serious issue
Could be
that's being
utilized to
created.
relieve.
Because we can go ahead and you can bring them in, be it on Rubicon or be it off 3 through the connector. Is that what we're looking at here? We're not just looking at providing some parking spaces, but it would be utilized on a daily basis to facilitate pickup and drop-off of our students at both intermediate and middle school.
I don't think we've gotten to that point yet, because I think with Dr. Barrett and DOTD, I think they're in the preliminary studies of what is going to be the best solution to that, but I think it definitely could be incorporated into that. I know that we have the $848,000 left in the bond funds, and I know with these other projects, it would be about 500,000 of it, so maybe there may be something that comes out of those meetings to where that would be more.
I know gravel or SB2 or whatever is not, it doesn't look quite as nice as asphalt or concrete, but right now we're just wanting to protect our students and their parents and everyone, and I don't think anyone's going to criticize the fact they've got to drive on gravel.
Well, I agree with that, but I also want to be clear, this is for, if we start using it on an everyday basis, we have to beef things up a little bit more, because it's going to take a beating. This is...
Understood.
Okay, so I understand event parking is so many times a year versus every day. Every day. If I put a rock down every day, we're going to get into something else. We're looking into that. I think that's the future. I think that's where we're leading to, but we're going to get the base down for that future to at least relieve the event parking, and then work our way toward resolving that 100% hopefully in the future.
So we're all in agreement, yes, we're wanting to expand our number of parking spaces, but we are also going to address at the same time how to better facilitate drop-off and pickup.
Yes. We're going to try and line it, lay
take
it
the pressure
out.
off Highway 3, because that is...
Our goal is to lay it out for that future expansion.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve this.
We have a motion by Mr. Bullard, second by Mr. Bamberg. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any other discussion or questions? Building and Grounds is complete. We have, if we can take maybe 5 minutes to come back so you can start at 6:03?
Yes, 5-minute break. We'll start at 6:05.
Okay, thank you.